For years, people looked up at the sky and wondered if they were alone. Some believed, most laughed. Then, one morning, everything changed. The sky turned silver. A strange glow covered cities, seas, and deserts. People stepped outside, staring. Upwards. News channels, phones, and radios screamed one word: they're here. A giant spaceship slowly appeared over the Atlantic Ocean. It didn't attack. It didn't send any threats. It just hovered, quiet, smooth, and cold, like it was waiting. Governments panicked, then froze. But the ship sent a peaceful message. We are the Valkyrie. We bring no war. We bring knowledge and power. For the next few hours, Earth held its breath. Then, 3 smaller ships came out from the mothership. They landed in New York, London, and Tokyo. From each, tall beings walked out. 7 feet high, skin like liquid glass, eyes glowing soft blue. They didn't carry weapons. They stood calm and proud. One of them, speaking in perfect English, said, "Something no one expected. We want to show you something. Our greatest invention. Our pride, the battle mechs." Suddenly, massive machines, about 40 feet tall, stepped out behind them. Metallic beasts. Their legs moved like lions. Arms like tanks. Faces had glowing visors. They stood still like statues. But they looked dangerous. People watched from behind barriers. Soldiers stood ready, fingers on triggers. But nothing happened. Then, the Valkyrie spoke again. These machines ended our wars. They brought peace to our world. They are strong, smart, deadly. We want to show you their power. One Valkyrie pressed a button on a small device. The mechs came alive. With heavy steps they moved forward, fast but smooth. One leapt over a car. Another dodged rockets fired at test dummies. A third one picked up a tank and threw it across a field, not as an attack. Just a demo. The humans watching were stunned, but not for long. In the crowd, a young man wearing sunglasses laughed and shouted, "Yo! These look like Transformers. Can we race them?" People around him giggled, then laughed louder. Some even clapped. The Valkyrie froze. They didn't understand. Was this a joke? A race? One of them asked seriously. "You want to race our war machines?" The man shrugged. "Yeah, why not? They're fast, right? Looks like fun." Suddenly, laughter broke out everywhere. Online chats exploded. #MechRace started trending worldwide. Back at their ship, the Valkyrie were confused. On their world, war was not fun. Machines were not toys. But here, on Earth, humans laughed in the face of danger. One Valkyrie, named Orzin, watched the crowd and whispered to another, "They don't fear them. They enjoy them." The leader, a serious Valkyrie named Zeltar, looked around and saw something strange. Humans weren't scared. They were excited, curious, playful. This was not what the Valkyrie expected. They had come to impress, maybe even show power. But the reaction was not fear. It was fun. The humans wanted to race their greatest weapon. Later that evening, a meeting was held between the Earth leaders and the Valkyrie. The humans made a proposal, a friendly event, no weapons, no war, just one thing, a race between mechs. Valkyrie hesitated. But curiosity won. They agreed. The mech race would happen in 2 weeks. On Earth, with human pilots learning to drive the machines. This was the moment everything changed. The Valkyrie had come to show off their power. But what they found was something stronger. The human spirit. The will to try anything. The madness to turn war machines into a sport. In the shadows, someone whispered, "This isn't going to be just a race. This is going to be history." Asterisk for 2 weeks. The world couldn't stop talking about it. News headlines screamed about the alien mech race. Children drew pictures of giant robots in their schoolbooks. Teenagers shared memes of aliens doing drifts in battle mechs. Old scientists and young gamers sat side by side. eyes fixed on screens, waiting for updates. And somewhere deep in Nevada, in a secret desert base, the preparations had already begun. The Valkyrie had chosen a wide, flat, open area of desert. But this wasn't a simple racetrack. It was a mix of real-world chaos, sand dunes, rocky hills, cracked highways, rivers, even a fake city block built just for the challenge. The aliens called it a test of adaptability. The humans called it the most badass video game come to life. 4 of the alien mechs had been brought to Earth. Their bodies shone like silver armor, tall and terrifying. Each had a name written in glowing letters: Zoltar, Rinak, Vernax, and Ilkin 7. Their design was perfect, clean, balanced, and efficient. They were built to think, react, and win. But now, they had to deal with a new kind of pilot. Humans, the Valkyrie expected Earth to bring their best soldiers. Trained professionals, calm and focused. But what Earth gave them was very different. The first human to arrive was Juno Reyes, a former racing champion banned for too much chaos on the track. Her red leather jacket had burn marks. She walked up to one of the mechs and said, "Nice legs, big guy. Let's see if you dance." The second was Ravi Rocket Patel, a mechanical genius who once built a robot using washing machine parts and raced it in underground tournaments. He didn't shake hands. He fist-bumped the mech. Then came Zoe, a teenage hacker who had never left her room until today. Her fingers flew over the controls like a pianist. She spoke only one word: cool. And last was Big Mike, a retired stunt driver who used to jump school buses for fun. He brought his own helmet. It had flames painted on the sides and the words, "Don't break," on the front. The Valkyrie were speechless. "This is your team?" Zeltar asked the Earth officials, looking genuinely confused. The Earth commander grinned. "They're not trained soldiers, but they're human, and that's enough." Training began the next day. At first, the humans struggled. The mechs didn't respond like normal machines. They had alien systems, strange energy flows, no steering wheels, no pedals. Every move was controlled through a mix of neural signals, muscle sensors, and reaction feedback. It felt more like wearing a living suit than driving a machine. Juno kept crashing her mech into walls. "Sorry," she shouted every time, but she was smiling. Ravi tried to make his mech dance. It short-circuited, spun in a circle, and collapsed. Zoe kept trying to hack the control panel to add music. Big Mike just pressed every button at once and yelled, "Yeehaw!" The Valkyrie watched in horror. This wasn't training. This was madness, but something strange started to happen. After each failure, the humans got back up. They laughed. They learned. They adapted. Juno figured out how to slide the mech around corners using bursts of energy. Ravi modified the sensor feedback to respond faster. Zoe created a new control layout that was actually better than the alien design. Big Mike discovered that if he yelled loud enough while jumping, the mech jumped higher, and the mechs themselves started changing. They moved quicker with the humans inside. Their lights grew brighter. They began to respond to emotion, to excitement, to fun, as if the machines themselves were enjoying it. Or Zen, the youngest Valkyrie engineer, watched from a distance. He couldn't believe what he saw. These machines, they were built for war, he whispered, but now they're playing. Each evening, the alien pilots trained separately, in silence and order. Their mechs moved with perfect balance, never slipping, never shaking. But they also looked predictable. Empty. The human mechs stumbled, danced, even fell. But when they rose with power. With heart. On the 5th day, a test run was set up. A small mock race through the fake city. No weapons, no tricks, just speed and control. The alien pilots went first. They were perfect. Smooth and fast. Then came the humans. Juno's mech burst forward, sliding around corners like a drift car. Ravi launched his over a broken bridge. Zoe used a shortcut she found through the map's coding. And Big Mike drove his mech through a wall just for fun and still made it to the finish line on time. The results weren't even close. The aliens were faster on paper, but the humans won the crowd. For the first time in centuries, the Varkari felt something strange. It wasn't fear. It wasn't anger. It was doubt. The humans were not stronger, not smarter, but they were unpredictable. And in a race filled with danger, tricks, and chaos, unpredictable might just win. The real race was only days away. The aliens prepared with science. The humans prepared with pizza, loud music, and insane ideas. The challenge had begun, and the galaxy was watching. The sun rose over the Nevada desert, but this was no ordinary morning. Giant shadows moved across the sand, kicking up clouds of dust. From a distance, it looked like monsters were walking. Up close, it looked like madness. Training had officially begun. The alien mechs, nearly 40 feet tall, moved in sharp lines. Their silver armor reflected the sun, their joints making a soft, smooth hum. The Varkari pilots were already inside, perfectly still, minds synced with their machines. Their movement was flawless. Each step was calculated. Each turn measured. These were not just robots. They were weapons with a purpose. But on the other side of the training field, it was chaos. Juno Reyes was blasting rock music through her mech speakers as she tried to power slide across the sand dunes. She didn't care about precision. She cared about style. Left drift, turbo boost, cannon spin. Let's go. She shouted. There was no cannon, but she spun anyway. Nearby, Ravi Rocket Patel had removed half the control panel inside his mech. Who designed this interface? A sad robot? He mumbled, wires hanging everywhere. Time to give this thing a proper personality. He connected a tiny speaker to the dashboard. The Mech's voice changed from cold and robotic to an enthusiastic British accent. Hello, Rocket. Ready to fly? Now that's better. Zoe was inside her mech with 3 laptops open at once. She wasn't even looking out the front window. She was rewriting code, testing shortcuts, and adding an AI assistant that told jokes. System diagnostics complete, the AI said. Also, you're awesome. Zoe smiled for the first time since she got there. And Big Mike, well, he had somehow added a steering wheel from his old truck into the cockpit. No one knew how. When asked why, he said, "Old habits die hard, kid." He was also the only one who named his mech. He called it Betsy. Every hour, the aliens watched the human team with growing confusion. Their machines were never treated like this. They were polished, worshipped, feared. But these humans treated the mechs like skateboards. Pets, friends, even toys. Orzin, the young alien engineer, recorded every moment. He couldn't look away. They are not improving the machines, Zeltar said flatly. Watching a clip of Big Mike doing donuts in the desert, they are breaking them. Orzin shook his head. No, they're changing them. And he was right. Something was happening inside the Mechs. Sensors started showing strange results. The machines responded faster to human emotion. When a human laughed, the mech lights blinked brighter. When a human shouted in excitement, energy output increased. When they pushed limits, the mechs didn't break, they adapted. One evening, during a late-night session, Juno's mech leapt over a row of broken cars, twisting midair before landing with a shockwave. A normal landing protocol would have shut down. But this time, the mech adjusted itself mid-fall, like it wanted to land. Juno climbed out, breathless. "That wasn't me," she whispered. "It helped me." Ravi tested his mech's reflexes and found it could now dodge targets 2 milliseconds faster than before. Not because of upgrades, because it chose to. Zoe's code showed something wild. The AI systems inside the mechs were beginning to rewrite themselves. Evolve, not in big ways, but just enough to feel alive. The aliens held an emergency meeting. These machines are made with logic, not emotion, one of the elder Valkyrie scientists said. If they are changing, it is because the humans are infecting them with chaos. Exalultar didn't argue, but he looked worried. The humans may not know what they're unlocking, he said. Meanwhile, the humans had no idea they were causing a scientific revolution. They just thought they were getting better. Every night, they sat around a campfire near the training field. They ate junk food, told stories, argued over who had the best mech tricks. Ravi said, "Mine can moonwalk." Juno laughed, "Yours can barely walk." Big Mike roasted marshmallows on a small flame from Betsy's exhaust pipe. Zoe watched the stars. Quietly said, "Do you think they're afraid of us?" Ravi raised an eyebrow. "The aliens?" She nodded. "They think we're stupid, but they don't understand. We don't follow rules. That's why we win." The others went quiet. She was right. Humans weren't the strongest, not the smartest. But they had one thing the Valkyrie had never faced before: imagination. The next day, the training entered its final stage. A full race simulation. 10 kilometers of mixed terrain, obstacles, jumps, heat, fake buildings, speed zones, hazard zones. It was as close to the real event as it could get. The aliens went first. They moved with perfection. They didn't slip, they didn't fall. Their mechs danced like machines in a ballet. Precise, clean, fast. Then came the humans. It started like a disaster. Juno's mech flew off course on the first turn. Big Mike ran over a fake fuel station. Ravi's mech tripped trying to jump. Zoe hit a wall, but they didn't stop. They corrected, improvised, used new paths. Worked together without saying a word. Halfway through, Ravi launched his mech onto a rooftop and slid across. Zoe used a glitch in the AI system to cut through a dead zone. Big Mike created his own shortcut by breaking through a building. Juno made the final jump through fire, a stunt she never tried before, and landed first. The humans had won the simulation. Barely. But they won. And when the mech stopped, their engines hummed, not with tension, but joy. The Valkyrie didn't clap. They didn't smile, but deep down, they understood something had changed. The training was over. The real race was next. And for the first time in 1,000 years, the Valkyrie weren't sure they would win. The day had finally come. The first official mech race. Not a test, not a simulation, not a friendly practice lab. This was real. This was the moment the galaxy had been waiting for. And it wasn't happening on Earth. It was happening on Mars. The Valkyrie had built an enormous arena inside. A Martian canyon carved into the red stone like a scar. It was unlike anything Earth had ever seen. The track was a twisting mess of chaos and beauty. Floating platforms, collapsing bridges, anti-gravity zones, magnetic walls, tunnels that spun, and even a section that passed through a simulated lightning storm. It was not just a racecourse. It was a challenge to survival. Crowds from across the galaxy filled the stadium, floating in hover seats or watching through massive holograms. Creatures from 10,000 systems had come to see one thing: how would humans race a machine built for war? The Earth team stood in silence, gazing at the course. Juno Reyes chewed her gum slowly. Ravi Rocket Patel adjusted his goggles. Zoe wiped her palms on her jeans. Big Mike just cracked his knuckles. "All right," Mike said. "What's the worst that could happen? We explode?" Ravi smirked. "That's plan B." Zoe added, "Technically, these mechs shouldn't even be in a race. So if we crash, it's history." Juno stared straight ahead. "We don't crash. We fly." Each of them climbed into their mechs. The machines came alive like sleeping beasts waking from a long dream. Lights flickered, metal joints groaned, and engine cores hummed like thunder trapped in a box. On the other side of the track, The Valkyrie pilots were already ready. 4 alien mechs stood in perfect lines, cold, calm, emotionless. Their pilots. Inside were not nervous. They didn't sweat. They didn't fear. They knew every part of the track, every speed zone, every threat. They had trained for this for years, but they had never trained for Earth-style chaos. A loud voice boomed through the stadium, translated into every language. Racers, prepare for launch. This is not just a test of speed. It is a test of will. A silence followed. Then, the signal dropped. The race began. 8 mechs, 4 human, 4 Valkyrie, shot forward like bullets through the Martian dust. The ground cracked beneath them. The walls shook. The air screamed with the sound of thrusters, boosters, and roaring metal. In the first few seconds, the alien mechs took the lead. They moved in harmony, like a single team. Every turn, every corner, perfectly calculated, smooth, elegant, fast. Humans? They were a mess. Juno went too wide on the first curve. Mike drifted too hard and smashed through a sign. Ravi flipped mid-air trying to show off. Zoe's mech stopped for 3 seconds because she accidentally hit the music shuffle button. The crowd laughed. Some aliens booed. But then, something changed. The humans didn't panic. They didn't freeze. They adapted. Juno used the wall to bounce into the next lane. Ravi hit a side tunnel and found a faster shortcut. Zoe activated a hover jump that wasn't even in the original programming. Big Mike, somehow, used a collapsing bridge as a ramp and did a full 360 spin before landing. The crowd gasped. Halfway through the race, the humans were gaining ground. Then came the zero zone, a section where gravity turned off. The mechs had to fly using boosters alone. The alien mechs hovered through in formation, no emotion, just focus. Juno? She flipped her mech upside down and used her momentum to slingshot around the magnetic pillar. Zoe followed, screaming with joy. Ravi made his mech dance in zero gravity. Mike spun like a wild tornado, and the crowd went wild. Across the stadium, aliens began cheering, not for perfection, for madness. The race tightened. It was now neck and neck. Dust and sparks flew with every turn. Mechs roared like beasts. Every movement could mean victory or destruction. Then came the final stretch, the storm tunnel, a kilometer-long tube of lightning, wind, and fire. Even the Valkyrie hesitated. The alien mechs entered with shields on, quiet, careful, calculated. The humans? They screamed and charged in like maniacs. Inside, the tunnel exploded with chaos. Sparks danced. Fires whipped. Lightning struck armor. For a moment, it felt like the mechs would be torn apart. But they weren't. Because the mechs weren't just machines anymore. They were partners. They moved with their pilots, not just by command, but by instinct. When Juno jerked her hand left, the mech had already leaned. When Ravi ducked, the cockpit lowered by itself. When Zoe screamed go, her mech boosted harder than it ever had before. And Big Mike? He just laughed like a man riding a rocket. As they exited the tunnel, all 8 mechs reached the final straight. The last 200 meters, the Valkyrie pushed their engines. So did the humans. A moment, they were equal. But then, something happened that no alien could understand. Juno stood up in her cockpit, full speed, and shouted to her team. Full blast. Now, they all boosted at once, overloaded their systems, broke every safety limit. Their mechs screamed in pain, but obeyed. The humans crossed the finish line first. Not 1, not 2, all 4. Together, the stadium went silent. Then, the cheering exploded, not just from humans. But from aliens. All over the galaxy. Viewers replayed the footage. They didn't see machines. They saw madness, teamwork, courage. Humanity. The Valkyrie stood frozen, silent, shaken. They had just lost their first mech race. Not because the humans were better pilots, but because the humans were something the Valkyrie had never faced before. Wild, brave, unpredictable. As the Earth teens stepped out of their mechs, panting, sweaty, laughing, a Valkyrie pilot slowly walked up to them. He looked at Juno and asked, not with anger, but curiosity, "Why did you overload your machines? You could have died." Juno wiped her face and grinned. "We knew. That's why we did it." The alien blinked. "Why?" Big Mike walked past and answered with a chuckle. "Because it's fun." The celebration didn't last long. The moment the Earth team stepped back onto solid ground, cameras followed them, lights flashed, reporters yelled, and a billion viewers watched through screens, satellites, and holograms. But while the world cheered, the humans knew one thing: this wasn't over. The Valkyrie wouldn't accept defeat so easily. They were already planning a rematch, and this time it wouldn't be on Earth's terms. There would be no chaos zones, no crazy shortcuts, no gravity storms. The next race would be held on Zarkin 9, a planet known for one thing: perfection. Artificial terrain, artificial weather, artificial rules. Everything predictable. Everything controlled. In other words, a race built for Valkyrie machines. The Earth team returned home in silence, their minds racing faster than their mechs. Each of them knew if they wanted to win again, they couldn't just race harder, they had to think crazier. Back in Nevada, the mechs were taken to a secret underground hangar. Engineers, scientists, gamers, hackers, even a few retired astronauts were called in. And this time, the upgrades wouldn't be alien, they would be human. Juno was the first to speak during the planning meeting. "Okay," she said, pointing at a mech diagram. "First of all, more thrusters. I want this thing to fly like a jet and land like a bird." Ravi raised an eyebrow. "Birds don't land that hard." Juno grinned. "Exactly." Ravi came prepared with his own ideas. "I want real-time AI prediction, split-second obstacle mapping, and listen to this self-healing armor. Not full repairs, just smart rerouting of circuits during damage." Zoe tapped rapidly on her tablet, already designing it. "Also, I added a sarcasm setting to the mech's voice." "Of course you did," Mike chuckled, walking in with a coffee mug and grease on his hands. "I brought something too." Everyone turned. He opened a bag and pulled out a vintage V8 engine. "Mike," Ravi blinked. "That's a car engine." Mike patted the engine like a loyal dog. "Yeah, but it's got soul." They didn't laugh. They added it. Because why not? That's what made them dangerous. While the Valkyrie trained with cold precision, Earth's team dove into creative madness. The mechs were stripped down, rewired, reprogrammed, rebuilt from the feet up. Panels were replaced with lighter alloys. Weapons removed and swapped for boosters, jump coils, heat-resistant shields, and an insane invention Zoe called the quantum skip, a move that could let the mech teleport forward by exactly 2 meters. Only once, only when needed. And it might fry the system. They all agreed to keep it, just in case. Juno's mech was rebuilt for aerial stunts with wings that folded out mid-air and small reverse thrusters for mid-jump steering. Ravi's mech was made smarter. The AI now learned during the race. Every second, it evolved. Zoe's mech was silent and fast. It could lower its noise level to 0 and disappear from sensors for a few seconds. A ghost on wheels. And Big Mike, well, his mech now had off-road suspension, flame-boosted feet, and a horn that played country music when he drifted. Someone suggested removing the music. Mike threatened to quit. The music stayed, but the upgrades weren't just technical. The bond between pilots and mechs grew stronger. These weren't just machines anymore. They were teammates. Some even called them friends. Late one night while alone in the hangar, Zoe asked her mech, "You think we can win again?" The mech's AI replied with quiet confidence, "I think we can surprise them again." Meanwhile, the Valkyrie watched from afar. Satellites hovered in orbit. Spy drones flew invisible. They gathered data, intercepted conversations, analyzed every upgrade. Tar stared at the reports. They are making the Mechs ... unstable. Another commander frowned. Yes, they're pushing limits. There's no logic to their design. Orzin, the youngest of them, leaned in. That's why they'll win again. The council glared at him. Machines are meant to follow rules, one elder snapped. Orzin didn't answer. But he remembered what he saw in the last race. The way Juno's mech twisted midair, like it wanted to fly. The way Zoe's mech dodged a crash before she even moved. The way Big Mike's mech laughed with him. There was something new happening. Something the Valkyrie could not calculate. Back on Earth, the upgrades were nearly complete. The hangar was filled with smoke, sparks, and shouting. Everyone worked together. Scientists who had built satellites now welded plates. Programmers tested while pilots slept inside the mechs, dreaming of fire and speed. And then, without warning, came a visitor. She was small, barely 5 feet, old, wearing a dusty coat and sunglasses. Nobody knew who she was, until Big Mike stood up and shouted, "Grandma?" She waved. "Got your message, Mikey. You said you needed help fixing your turboflame thruster." Mike scratched his head. Yeah, it keeps exploding." Grandma opened her bag. Inside was a wrench bigger than her arm. "I'll fix it. You just make sure that mech of yours wins." Everyone stared as she walked up to the giant machine without fear, climbed onto it like a jungle gym, and began yelling at it like it was a misbehaving truck. It listened. Even the mech lights dimmed respectfully. That night, the upgrades were done. The 4 mechs stood side by side, reborn. Juno walked past hers, running her hand along the armor. "Ready?" she whispered. The mech pulsed. "Always." Ravi climbed into his and said, "Let's break a few laws of physics." Zoe smiled softly. "Let's do the impossible." "And Mike?" He looked at Grandma, nodded, and then said to his mech, "Let's show them how Earth does it, partner." From orbit, the Valkyrie sent the final signal. The rematch would begin in 3 days. Location: ZARKON-9. No shortcuts. No stunts. No madness. Just skill. But what they forgot was that madness is the human skill. 3 days later, the humans arrived at Zarkon 9, and everything felt ... wrong. This planet didn't feel like a race zone. It felt like a trap from space. Zarkon 9 looked like a glowing marble, perfect. Blue skies, smooth land, zero natural chaos. But on the ground, it was even worse. The racecourse wasn't made of rock or dirt. It was made of clean glass roads, perfect turns, laser-straight tunnels, and hover checkpoints that beeped when passed. No wind and no gravity changes. No fire. No fun. Ravi looked around and muttered, "It's like racing inside a computer program." Zoe tapped her screen. "There's no randomness coded into this map. Every curve, every obstacle, it's timed and fixed." Juno stared at the course and didn't blink. They built this for themselves. We're not supposed to win here. Big Mike didn't say anything. He just spit on the track, and it sizzled. The alien audience floated. Above in silent rows, glowing rings with cold eyes. No claps, no cheers, just judgment. This wasn't just a race anymore. This was a test. And failure meant more than losing. It meant proving that humans didn't belong in the galactic arena. The human mech stood at the starting line, gleaming, upgraded, unstable in all the right ways. Opposite them, the Valkyrie mech stood like gods of war. No fire decals, no personality. Just smooth death machines programmed to win. A low voice announced across the track, "Begin in 10. The human team looked at each other. 9. Ravi adjusted his music playlist. No opera. Only chaos. 8. Zoe sensed her AI. "Make us invisible when I say vanish." 7. Big Mike tightened his gloves. "Betsy's thirsty." 6. Juno cracked her neck. "Let's turn their perfect track into a playground. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Go. The launch was violent. 8 mechs launched forward like rockets. The sound shattered the quiet sky. The glass track trembled under the raw force. As expected, the Valkyrie took the lead instantly. Clean turns. Smooth jumps. Zero hesitation. The humans were close, but not leading. Not yet. The first few miles went by like clockwork. Juno could feel it. This race didn't reward guts. It rewarded math. Every jump was the same size. Every boost pad gave the same speed. The whole track was like a machine. And humans? They didn't race like machines. They raced like wildfire. Still, they kept up. The mechs responded faster than ever. The upgrades worked. Better control, faster reaction time, better balance in tight zones. And then, the cheat began. Without warning, a spike rose from the track, timed perfectly under Zoe's mech. It wasn't part of the map. She dodged barely, but it tore a chunk out of her left leg joint. What was that? She shouted. I thought you said the track was clean. Ravi shouted back. It was. More spikes came, random, unmarked, and only targeting the humans. Juno growled. They're rigging it. Lasers fired from under the glass surface, targeting their boosters. The crowd didn't flinch. This wasn't a race. It was sabotage. Big Mike's mech took a hard hit. Lost a chunk of armor. His systems glitched. Betsy started limping. I'm not quitting, he said. Not after what Grandma fixed. In the control tower, Zeltar watched the race quietly. He turned to a fellow Valkyrie. They'll break soon. Their mechs can't survive this. But Orzen wasn't convinced. He stared at the human machines, beat up, shaking, smoking, and yet still running. The unexpected happened. The secret weapon arrived. A ship broke through the atmosphere above the track, small, round, glowing hot. It roared like a beast. Security moved to intercept, but too late. The ship crash-landed right next to the track. And out walked Grandma, wearing a fireproof coat, welding goggles, and dragging a massive toolkit behind her. Everyone, alien and human, went silent. Hiya. Boys and girls, she said into a stolen microphone. Looks like y'all forgot who keeps these babies running. In her hand was a device, old, patched, ugly but powerful. She called it the override beacon. One click, and the signal shut down. Every remote interference the Valkyrie had planted. On the track, all hidden lasers blinked off. All traps stopped. Even the cheat systems went quiet. Xel-Tar stood in shock. How did she? Orzen smiled. Because she's human. With the sabotage gone, the mechs came alive again. Juno's mech roared. Ravi's mech activated emergency boosters. Zoe's I laughed and whispered, let's break the rules again. Mike shouted, let's ride. The final stretch began. 1 kilometer, open road. No tricks left. Just racers. The humans pushed hard. Too hard. Alarms blared. Overheating. Risk of meltdown. Didn't matter. They flew past the final turn like meteors. Engines screaming. The Valkyrie stayed fast, perfect. Controlled. But the humans weren't racing safe. They were racing free. Juno's mech hit max speed. The frame cracked. Panels fell off. But it didn't stop. She activated the wings. Jumped. Glided. Landed. First. Zoey used quantum skip. 2 meters forward. Second. Ravi jumped off a collapsing side bridge and flipped mid-air. Third. And Mike? He didn't cross the line. He skid through. It backward, sparks flying, mech horn playing country music. Fourth. Silence. Then chaos. The crowd screamed. Alien voices, Earth voices, languages never heard before, all cheering the same thing. Humans, humans. The Valkyrie pilots stepped out, confused, not angry, not bitter. Just stunned. Xel-Tar walked away without a word, but Orzen stood still. Smiling. Later, a reporter asked Juno, How did you win on a track not built for you? She wiped dust off her face and said, we didn't race their track. We made it ours, and when asked what the secret weapon was, Big Mike laughed. It wasn't Grandma. He looked at the crowd. It was us. Asterisk, the stars looked different that night, not because the sky had changed, but because the galaxy had. The humans had won twice, not by luck, not by cheating, not by power. They won by doing what no one expected, by being human. Back on Earth, fireworks exploded across cities. Kids ran through the streets wearing cardboard mech suits. Someone created a new dance move called the Mech drift. Ravi's face was printed on cereal boxes in Japan. Zoe's AI assistant went viral. Juno's quote, "We didn't race their track. We made it ours," was now painted on walls in 50 languages. But not everyone was celebrating. In the deep halls of the Valkyrie Council, silence reigned. Old commanders debated behind glass walls. Scientists ran simulations trying to prove the races were flukes, that something must have gone wrong. Perfect systems shouldn't lose to imperfect beings. And yet, they had. Twice. Xeltar stood at the center of the room, arms behind his back, eyes hard. "This cannot happen again," he said. "If chaos can beat control, then everything we built means nothing." Or Zen stepped forward. He didn't look afraid. He looked alive. "Maybe," he said, "it means something bigger." The room turned. "What do you mean?" Or Zen took a breath. "For centuries, we built machines to end war, to control life, to keep order. But the humans, they don't race to win." He paused. "They race to feel alive." No one answered because deep down, they all felt it too. That flicker of curiosity, that human virus of wonder. Back on Earth, the team was resting, or trying to. Their mechs had been placed in a private hangar, still glowing, still humming, still changing. They weren't just machines anymore. They were memories now. Carved in metal. Juno sat on top of hers, staring at the stars. Not talking, just breathing. Ravi was in the corner, building a small drone that made animal sounds. "It's for fun," he said. "No reason. Just fun." Zoe was teaching her AI to tell bedtime stories. Big Mike and Grandma were arguing over engine, oil and pie crusts. No one knew why, but it felt normal. And normal was rare now. Then, a call came. Not from Earth. Not from the VARKARI. From everywhere. Across the galaxy. Hundreds of planets, colonies, and species were sending the same message. "Let the humans host the next race." Juno raised an eyebrow. "Wait. What?" Ravi laughed. "They want us to organize the next galactic championship." Mike grinned. "Guess who's designing the course?" Zoe smiled. "Let's make it crazy." The humans were now not just racers. They were pioneers. 1 month later, the first human-hosted galactic mech race was launched. The course was called the Gauntlet. It wasn't clean. It wasn't balanced. It had volcano jumps, underwater tunnels, upside-down cities, zero-gravity dance floors, maze zones, oil slicks, and one section called the Grandma Loop, where mechs had to survive a spinning platform. While listening to old jazz, the Valkyrie arrived. Cautious. The same alien crowds returned, but this time, they were smiling. They weren't here for perfection. They were here for the show. And this time, the humans didn't compete. They watched. They hosted. They taught. They shared. The mechs, once weapons, were now tools of connection. Every race became a celebration of difference. Some mechs danced. Some flew. Some crawled. One even baked cookies mid-race. Nobody knew how. No one cared. The scoreboard didn't matter anymore. People cheered not for who won, but for who surprised them. Some Valkyrie danced with humans. Some cried. Some laughed for the first time. And somewhere, deep inside a quiet hangar, 4 human mechs stood in a row. Sleeping, waiting, glowing. One evening, Zoe visited them alone. She placed a small sticker on her mech's chest. It said, "Thank you for the ride." Juno came by later and whispered, "We didn't just win a race, we changed the rules." Ravi nodded. "We taught machines how to dream." Big Mike stood behind them, holding a wrench and a hot dog. He grunted, "I still think Betsy needs a radio upgrade." Everyone laughed. Even the mech lights flickered, like they agreed. Years later, the races continued. Earth was no longer a forgotten little planet. It was the home of creativity, chaos, and heart. Humans never became the strongest, but they became something better, the most watched. And sometimes, a new racer would ask, "What do humans race for?" And an old pilot, maybe Juno, maybe Mike, would smile and say, "We race for the thrill, for the fire in our chest, for the wind in our teeth. And sometimes, we race just to see if we can." Because in the end, it was never about finishing. First, it was about showing the universe. Humans aren't just survivors. They're dreamers. Builders. Fighters. And sometimes, they're just wild enough to turn war machines into joyrides.